This is Ajahn Sona from Birken Forest Monastery, and this is our live stream Q&A. Feel free to enter a question in the question bar and the right speech bar. Imagine if they opened a bunch of bars called the right speech bar, and that would change things, wouldn't it? So, Pia, please feel free to ask the first question.
Ajahn, our first question is from the live stream from Laura. You mention in your breath meditation jhāna videos that at some point we should focus the attention on the whole body, particularly to experience joy and pleasure. However, this step is not mentioned in your breath meditation booklet, and I'm confused as to when and how to start this step. Isn't it troublesome to focus on the whole body once the attention is fully fixed at the tip of the nose? What's the benefit of moving the attention from the nose to the body?
I'm glad you asked the question because there are a couple of different basic schools of breath meditation. And, you know, if you're a general listener and perhaps you don't do breath meditation, you may not know the details, but breath meditation is very common, both for monks and for lay people who practice meditation. And the basic teachings are in the what's called Anapanasati Sutta. Anapana means breathing in and out. Sati means mindfulness. And so there are 16 steps listed by the Buddha. So this is said to be the word of the Buddha. And they're like 4 groups of 4. The first group of 4 says, breathing in a short breath, I know. Breathing out a short breath, I know. Breathing in a long breath, I know. Breathing out a long breath, I know. Then it moves on to experiencing the whole body, period, kaya, in Pali, K-A-Y-A. I breathe in, experiencing the whole body, I breathe out. Now, what happens is that there's a school that interprets that as the whole physical body. But generally in Buddhist history, when in the commentaries on this, they usually say that this kaya, this body that they're referring to, is not your physical body, but the body of the breath. And they quote another sutta which says, there is a body amongst the bodies, and that is the breath body. They refer to it as the breath body. Think about our English language where we refer to this author has a body of work. This composer has a body of transcriptions or compositions. And we can use the word body in various ways. And so the commentaries tend to favor the idea that this is the experiencing the entire duration of the breath body, and that is the entire inhalation and exhalation, is the 3rd and 4th steps of the first tetrad. There is another school, Ajahn Thanissaro is a promoter of this school, and a teacher of his, Ajahn Lee, and etc. back in Thai tradition, in certain Thai tradition, where they interpret it as the whole physical body. So he's saying, now after focusing on the breath, become aware of your whole body. I personally favor the interpretation of the whole body of the breath, meaning that your mind is on the breath from the beginning of it to the end of it, just as it passes through the nasal cavity. So this is quite a demand on attention. But the next group of 4 start to mention, emotional feeling, PITI and passaddhi, and so now, which is quite sensible, breath meditation can be performed not just for the improvement of mindfulness, but for the induction of samadhi, deep states of serenity and concentration. So the first jhana can be experienced, the first, second, third, and even the fourth jhana, it can be experienced through breath meditation. What constitutes the first jhana? Joy, which is experienced throughout your body, and ease of body. So joy is explained as the same kind of as worldly joy. You can get goosebumps, you can get little shivers up your spine, your hair can stand on end, you can tears can come out the corners of your eyes from sheer joy. You can almost feel like you're being lifted off the ground. You can hardly stay on the ground because of joy. So that's very, very vivid experience. Now, in the midst of all this, you are not to lose track of the feeling of the breath as well. So, and then your whole body has a sense of ease as well. So pain and problems in the body have subsided. You feel a good feeling throughout the body and an emotional feeling of joy. So you can have more than one thing in your consciousness at a time. You can be aware of the breath, and you can be aware of the joy, emotional joy, and ease of the body. So this is why I'm bring that up, is that I tend to favor the school that says that the third and fourth sentences of the first tetrad, the first group of four, the breath, the body there is actually the breath body, and it's only in the next tetrad that one can experience the whole body, and should experience the whole body as having sukha, which is ease, and that the emotion is joy. And you can plainly be aware of these things all at the same time without distracting yourself from the breath. Let's say you are a parachutist and you jump out the plane. Now, you jump out into this air, you start falling at 120 miles an hour. It's a vivid experience. You certainly feel the wind, and you also feel joy, and probably your body feels very relaxed as well because you're just falling. And at the same time, you better not forget to pull the ripcord, right? You can't afford to not pay attention to the distance to the ground and all of those other things. You're aware of a multitude of things. This happens in all kinds of situations. In sports, skiing, or diving, and all this, they're aware of several things at once. It's thrilling. The body might be at ease, and at the same time, you have to focus on the details of what you're doing and what the body is doing. So this is not a conflict of interest here. So the other school, just tends to favor that you're aware of the body in the first tetrad. I tend to favor the idea that body is just the body of the breath, and that you still become aware, obviously, of the whole body, because the experience of sukha throughout the body, that is ease, a sense of ease and pleasure throughout the body, and the emotion of joy, which is also a kind of a whole body experience, are specifically mentioned in the next tetrad of the Anapanasati Sutta. So we just have a difference of opinion about the first, when that whole bodily experience occurs. And I don't see it as important that the physical body itself is not important. It's the feeling of sukha, or ease, in the body that's important, and the feeling of emotion of joy that's important in these first jhana and second jhana, which is what the anapanasati, what this mindfulness of breathing supports, and in fact is designed to lead to. So that, I hope, clears up some of that confusion about that. Let's go to the next question.
The next question is from Anonymous in Singapore. Is there a preferred time to chant? In some cultures, it is considered inauspicious to chant in the evenings, as it is said that the spirits are more active in the evenings, and we don't want to draw the spirits to ourselves as we chant. Is that true, or can we chant at any time we prefer?
I've never come across any indication that it's a bad time to chant, except, of course, if you're in a library or something like this where you're supposed to be quiet. Or in the meditation hall, when you're supposed to be sitting silently, don't chant. But if you're living alone and you're not going to disturb the neighbors and all that kind of stuff, then feel free to chant at any time of the day or night. You will not have a problem with negative spirits. Actually, negative spirits will have a problem with you if you chant. So uplifting chants are highly recommended by the Buddha. For monks going off to the forest, to the deep forest, imagine the 5th century BC in India, it's full of Bengal tigers and wild elephants and giant snakes and all kinds of very problematic beings living in the forest. Now the monk has to go and dwell there without weapons or protection. So it's highly recommended that they do some chanting for the blessings. May all beings be well. One of the specific chants is, may all beings with no legs be well. May all beings with many legs be well. May all beings with 4 legs be well. May all beings with 2 legs be well. Now, what are those? So, no legs, snakes. Many legs, centipedes. Oh, centipedes are very, very aggressive. And then, of course, 4 legs. Most of the animals have 4 legs. And then there's the 2-legged variety as well, the humans. So the monks are encouraged to do these chants, and also just the chant of loving kindness at any time, day or night, as a protection against all of these things, both negative spirits, ghostly spirits. The loving kindness chant was actually assigned to monks when they were having trouble with negative spirits in a forest. They'd gone to a very beautiful place. They had not made themselves known and asked sort of permission to be there from the spirits. And so the spirits were bothering them. They came to the Buddha and he sent them back with the chant of loving kindness as a protection for this. So that's the indication that chanting is very helpful against negative kind of spirits. Okay, next question, Pia.
Mm-hmm. Next question is from our live stream from Laura in Portland, Oregon, United States. Dear Ajahn, how do you define citta? I have heard citta defined in different ways, such as mind, heart, and consciousness.
Yeah, one of the ways to define it is to look at the 4 foundations of mindfulness, sutta, and the 3rd foundation of mindfulness is called citta nupassana. So the first foundation is mindfulness of the body, kaya nupassana. There's the word kaya again, body. Then the next one is vedana nupassana. It's mindfulness of feelings, sensations in the body, pleasant, neutral, and unpleasant. And then the 3rd category is called citta nupassana, meaning mindfulness of the mind. I would say we would call this the mind, but at the same time, it's really something to do, including emotional dimension. So the heart-mind, and it gives a bunch of little dualities. So it is the mind angry or not? Are you angry or not? Greedy or not? Deluded or not? Is your mind expansive or contracted? Surpassable or unsurpassable? Worldly, unworldly? So you can see some of those we would call just mental states, as like surpassable or unsurpassable, expansive or contracted. And others we would call emotional conditions, angry or not, greedy or not, deluded or not. Delusion maybe is emotional as well. Kind of, there's a level of sort of confusion and muddiness to it. So you can see that's how they would use that word citta. And so it's good to just find out how they used that word in the suttas, and that's a very prime example of that. Yeah.
Our next question is from Upasika Karuna in Denmark. Is there going to be an announcement concerning the remaining 4 episodes of the 37 Requisites of Enlightenment series?
Yes, we will announce it, and they will definitely be put up. There are 12 in the series. What happens is that we interrupt that for these live streams. The live streams were suspended for a period of time in the summer because we wanted an opportunity actually to put up the talks on 37 Requisites of Enlightenment. And they take a lot of editing. So this right now is a live stream. There's no editing here. What you hear and see is what you get. It's just as it is. The talks in the formal talks that are given in the meditation sala to a live group are later edited to take out any mistakes or to enhance sound or video quality or any of that kind of stuff. We take some time because they'll be up there for a long time. And that takes a lot of work. I don't do it myself. We have some wonderful volunteers, video editors who are here with us today who do this work. And I hope that you really appreciate all of the technical stuff that goes into this to try to do good quality presentations. My theory is that monks and lay people who write books take a great deal of concern for editing and polishing and, selecting the cover and the type of paper and the print and all of this. But quite often, I think it's still a little bit unfamiliar to monastics that to sit in front of a camera and be recorded. The Dhamma is said to be very precious, and one should present it as a very valuable thing with some dignity. And that's why we attempt also to increase the quality of the video and the quality of the recordings and sounds, and including editing. That it should, if Dhamma is being given, it should be respected and given as in as quality a format as possible. So this hasn't generally hasn't been taken up in terms of the video thing. The Buddha himself talked about how to give a Dhamma talk and how that the monks should modulate their voice and they should speak properly, that people should be able to hear everywhere, and it should be in a dignified fashion, well-informed. All of these things. So we want to just transpose that to modern times where we actually can record these things. And they can be available for many, many, many years as well. So this is why we spend time with the editing, and the 4 remaining talks will be available in, I would say, the near future. I myself want to have them up because I did put a lot of thought and effort into this, the production of those things. So they will arrive, yeah. And you will hear about them. We will definitely, if you're subscribed to the channel, you will get a notification about those, yeah.
Next question is from the live stream from Alex. Dear Ajahn, I've been meditating for 8 to 12 hours per day for the last year and I feel that my level of concentration is quite satisfactory. However, my mind has also grown increasingly sensitive to the point where even subtle craving or aversion creates sharp, painful feelings in my chest, similar to a needle prick. Is this a normal outcome of extensive meditation, or is it a result of wrong practice? Perhaps too laser-like focus?
Yeah, sensitivity to the situation, especially if you're doing samadhi for a long time. And in order to do samadhi practices, you usually need a quiet place and a very controlled environment. And so sometimes when you come out of that and you're dealing with the ordinary world, it seems very coarse and impinges on your senses. However, you really shouldn't be experiencing these kind of needle-like experiences in your chest or anything like that. Samadhi practice is ultimately to also increase your equanimity, your stability in the midst of change. I mean, if our practice is only good in perfect situations, then it's not good enough. Our practice needs to be robust and flexible in different circumstances, because the world will thrust itself upon you. And if your practice does not hold up under different types of situations, then it's not good enough. So you want to focus more on practicing your equanimity in the midst of different situations. I don't encourage this idea that you go and sit on a busy highway with a lot of people that are dangerous or something like this as a test of your practice, but just the ordinary world, being in a car in traffic, or walking down the sidewalk, or going into a shop and buying things are enough circumstances to see how your practice is going in these under different circumstances. And the purpose of this meditation practice is to reduce suffering and be very robust, emotionally robust in all these different circumstances, so that you maintain a sense of peace and ease in the midst of the difficult, problematic environment around you. Sometimes it's severe. As you see, you can be in war situations, or you can be in very serene situations where you have ideal conditions. Your practice has to hold up in this whole spectrum of situations. So you examine it yourself and say, what am I doing? I got expectations that everything should be perfect, that nothing should disturb me. I need to cultivate more flexibility and to practice more in what's called sampajañña. So there's sati, mindfulness, and then there's sampajañña, general awareness, 360 awareness of your environment and your body, and this is intelligent awareness, an awareness of the nature of reality that you can be impinged upon through sights and sounds and smells and tastes and touches, and that you're ready for this and you're not surprised by this, and that you respond with a sense of equanimity and resilience to this. Okay, next question.
Next question is from Anonymous in Missouri, United States. My partner left me after some manipulation and lies came to the surface. I can see that while they've hurt me greatly, there was a part of them that was going through a difficult time internally and tried to protect me from harm. I've let them out of my life with well wishes, and I know they are a good person that got caught up in a bad situation, but it still hurts. Aside from time, what can I do to move forward and ease some of that pain?
There are 5 methods for removing a grudge. When somebody has done you wrong and you have a grudge against them. This is a very brief but very useful sutta. The first method is loving kindness. So You have a grudge. By the way, this sutta was addressed to monks, so even monks might have grudges. Somebody does them wrong and so forth. But certainly in the general world, or the layperson's world, there's many, many opportunities to be offended and have disloyalty, and all kinds of manipulation can happen. Are we to live with resentment and grudges throughout our life? Who wants to live this way? Or can we free ourselves from it? So the Buddha says, free yourself from these grudges. Now, the first method is loving kindness. But quite often, just suddenly having loving kindness for somebody who is being disloyal and sabotaged your life is very hard. So that's for virtuosos. If you can, then do it. But if you can't, and that's very understandable if you can't, then next one is compassion. Compassion for the person. You seem to be understanding that they got into a situation, etc. So you have some compassion. They're suffering as well. But compassion for yourself. Compassion for yourself that, I am suffering here. I need to feel a sense of warmth for myself because I'm having trouble letting go of this betrayal and this grudge. Oh, you can't do that. So the next one is equanimity. I don't try to have positive feelings towards the person. I simply try to have a balanced and unshaken attitude towards the person, a stable attitude where I'm not warm to them, but I'm not angry and hostile to them, just neutral. If you can't do that, then the next one is do not bring that person to mind. And this is quite startling, I think, for a lot of people. A lot of people think they have to work through this, and that all these people that you've had trouble with, you have to be sorting through it, working it out in your mind, bringing them up again and again, and trying to reconcile it, or etc. The Buddha doesn't give you that advice. He says, if you can't come up with at least neutral feeling towards the person, then don't bring them to mind. And people say, oh, that how can I not bring them to mind? Well, it's your mind. You realize that you do have a choice. You simply don't have to think about them. But you need to make a very strong determination to carry this out. So I suggest that you write it down and that you put it in an envelope, that you will not think of such and such a person, and you put it in a sacred place, and you make 3 bows to this envelope. So your mind is really clear that you've made a decision. You're not going to bring this irritant into your consciousness, because when you do, you can't come up with loving kindness, you can't come up with compassion, and you can't come up with equanimity. So you are not going to think about them. And you might put a date on the envelope as well, that, in this case, I think after a year or 2, I think I could bring them to mind perhaps with equanimity. Now, if it's been a long, tormented relationship, it may not be possible for decades or even in this life. It's entirely possible that for the rest of this life that you are just not going to bring that person into your mind. It's your private space. You don't have to have them in it. And it's not, I hope that psychologists don't imagine that it's not being addressed, because what you should be doing is practicing the positive emotions with beings that you can practice positive emotions with. There's no insistence that you should be able to have loving kindness for all beings, including your enemies, if you can't do it. And it's rather harmful to bring these people up if it just produces some sadness, resentment, and anger. You're not benefiting yourself in any way. Those emotions are injuring you, etc. So that's the 4th method. And the last method, the 5th method, is all beings are the owners of their karma. So you can let the universe distribute its justice. You don't have to do it. The universe has cause and effect in the moral dimension, and whatever that is, it will administer its own sense of justice. And you can be free of the need to do that. So also, you are one of the beings that is the owner of your karma. Now, if you nurse grudges and negative emotional states towards that person, or you do negative things in terms of speech or action, then you also will have karmic results. You'll have negative results. So this is the 5 methods for removing these negative states. A very useful and short sutta. Okay, next question, Pia.
Next question is from our live stream from Greg in Chicago, United States. Many theistic religions have practices to develop goodwill for humanity. What parts of practices like metta meditation are uniquely Buddhist?
The universality of it is what it is. In Christianity, the animals are left out. There's no specific concern for the animal life. And Buddhism includes all beings, all conscious beings in terms of goodwill, loving kindness. And it's very hard to find any examples of that before the Buddha. And it's very hard to find in the theistic religions, the Abrahamic religions, a universal goodwill for all beings. And so that's the difference, is that this is universal without conditions attached. Yeah.
Next question is from Upasaka Sujata from Mexico. In the place where I live, I am almost the only Buddhist. Because of this, in recent days I have received from friends the Dalai Lama's video where he is kissing a child. So they ask my point of view and if there will be a punishment for that. I made some comments, but can you give me your wise suggestion on how I can answer in a wholesome way to this topic in order to not misguide people with hatred and with a wrong idea of what Buddhism is?
I'm really not an expert on that video. I think I might have seen I might have seen it once. It was explained from the Tibetan point of view. It's a cultural thing. It's purely a cultural thing, and it's done. This was not done in private. This was done in public, in a large public audience. You know, the child asked, I think, if the Dalai Lama could hug him. So the Dalai Lama, I think, said, "Sure, come on up." And kid sat on his lap, and then he said, "I offer you some candy or something that he had in his mouth. You can take my tongue as well," he said, which is a Tibetan thing. This is what grandparents say to their kids: "Go ahead, not to take the candy, but I'll take my tongue." So much was made of this. I think I heard that it was especially the Chinese who have a vested interest in any kind of bad press around the Dalai Lama or Tibetan Buddhism. We're very excited to promote and spread this with the worst kind of connotations as well. I should, use a little common sense and research the context of it. It's obviously completely open and public. I don't particularly like the idea of monks hugging children to begin with, but that's the cultural norm. And whatever he did was not really outside the Tibetan kind of idea of what a grandfather would say to a child. So that's the context of that, and I think it's once you get the context, then. But you may not want to be endlessly explaining this to people. Perhaps well, just say, yeah, you heard this story. Maybe you don't understand the context of it. It's a cultural thing, in Tibet. So that's all you can say.
Next question is from the live stream from Diego in Chile. What role do non-dual experiences during meditation play within Buddhism, if any? Is it something the Buddha talked about, or is it completely unrelated?
Well, this term non-duality always baffles me. What an interesting term. Not two, whatever that means. Not three either. It's an unnecessary term. It doesn't occur in Theravada language. It's not a term that is very much promoted in Theravada. In the some of the Mahayana schools, they use this as the non-duality of nirvana and samsara, etc. But the Theravada school, the basic teachings of the historical Buddha do not identify nirvana and samsara as not dual. They're actually dual. They're dualistic. So non-duality is used in some of the more like Hindu schools of the identity of Atman and Brahman, or the fading away of the self and recognizing that your true self is no other than Brahman or God. Your true self is God. This is not the case in Buddhism. This is the school that uses the term most often is this Advaita, which means not two, Vedanta, based on the Vedas. Now, Buddhism does not base anything on the Vedas. These are Brahmanical teachings that the Buddha did not participate in at all, and criticized in some ways. So this idea of non-duality, by the way, this Advaita Vedanta borrows quite heavily from Buddhism. So one must understand the interplay between Buddhism and neo-Brahmanical ideas as time went on in India and throughout Asia as well. Various schools and religions syncretized. So this is called syncretic religion, So you got to distinguish all kinds of Brahmanic ideas entered into Buddhism over the years. In China, Taoist ideas and Confucian ideas entered into various forms of Buddhism as well. And you'll find in modern times all kinds of psychology theories. You'll find even Freudian ideas entering into Buddhism. People get confused. What are the So you need to ground yourself in, well, first of all, what are the teachings, the best that we know of the historical Buddha found in the Pali Canon? And then we start to sort things out. And then there's there's a whole text like the Bhagavad Gita, very famous, is, in my opinion, a responding, in a sense, to Buddhism. Quite often the Bhagavad Gita is thought to be very, very ancient, deep into history, but actually I really see that they're actually having to address some of the critiques of the Vedas by the Buddha. And so this is a historical study. You have to understand and sort out what are these ideas, where are they coming from. If you're in the West, you will see this. How does some of the Greek philosophies enter into Christianity? How do you sort out the teachings of Plato when they enter into some of the ideas of medieval Christianity or Renaissance Christianity? Where are these ideas coming from? It's a bit of a study. I mean, it's a deep lifetime practice, and so you shouldn't be. You need to examine the roots of these ideas and where they cross over and where they come from. Yeah. Okay.
Ajahn, the next question is from the live stream from Shrugs Haru. Dear Ajahn, I find it doable to use pañña and sati and samadhi to overcome suffering from many forms of suffering. They arise and I can see through them and they disappear. But the one exception is attachment to sensual desire and the loneliness and depression that comes from an inability to find a life partner. I try to remind myself of impermanence and try to meditate, but the deep pain and the mental suffering born of that pain is like a fire that can't be put out.
Yeah. This is a pretty an epidemic, I would say. I read books sometimes by psychologists and sharp observers about the society we're in, because I don't really have time to keep up on it myself. I can't survey thousands of people and see how things are going, what they're reporting. But it seems to be that this culture is riddled with loneliness as a major epidemic right now. And there are all kinds of social reasons for that. There is isolation, and you're not born and raised in a small village where you're all related to each other and you know everybody from birth. Now you're off alienated in some remote city and out of touch with people, and then locked up with the internet in your COVID pandemic lockdown, etc. This is all kinds of reasons why loneliness is being accelerated. But you shouldn't be so much at the mercy of these circumstances. So you really have to make a determination that loneliness is a kind of it's something you do to yourself, and that it's possible to actually live alone without feeling lonely. And the very word lonely in the English language a few centuries ago, lonely meant just alone. Like there was a lonely pine tree, meaning a pine tree that was not in a forest. It didn't mean that the tree was lonely. It meant that it was just alone. It was in solitude. So you don't have to be 3 feet from somebody that you really like in order to feel not lonely. It's a mental attitude. And you can radiate goodwill to all beings. You don't have to have any of them in the room with you, actually, to do this. The Buddha recalls that many monks and nuns lived alone and practiced primarily loving kindness without ever being around people. It's an attitude that you practice. When you're not lonely, you did it to yourself. You made non-loneliness. And it wasn't the person in the room with you that caused you not to be lonely. We usually attribute it to other people that make us not lonely, but actually it's us that makes us not lonely, and it's us that makes us lonely. And many people report that, in the midst of the crowd, they feel the loneliest of all in the midst of a crowd. And they feel less lonely when they're alone, So this is a mental state, this is an attitude, and you have to work it out. And you're practicing your mindfulness and your wisdom, etc., but you're not practicing enough. So you have to overcome this. Monks voluntarily choose to give up these intimate relationships and to live without that intimacy. And they're notably quite well and happy in that solitude. It's perhaps not natural to humans. It's quite natural to crave, relationship and so forth. But it doesn't mean that you're just you're just a victim of your genetic predispositions. You can learn to be quite complete and whole without having the life partner. So this is what you want to work on. Okay, let's go to the next question.
The next question is from Michael in Van Nuys, California, United States. I'm noticing that I have a neurotic response to PITI. I begin to feel giddiness in my chest and cannot seem to stick with it. Instead, I reflexively question whether it's okay or what I did to make it happen. In a sense, it seems to feel, quote, too good to simply accept. How to train myself to stop this? I am hoping that repeatedly experiencing some amount of PITI will help me accept it calmly.
Yes, for the general audience, PITI is joy. So this person is having trouble when they start to experience joy, perhaps through meditation, they suddenly feel that they don't deserve it. They're feeling there's some little guilt thing interrupting your enjoyment of self-induced joy, and you may not be all that aware of that, but that may be a personality thing that, I don't know, you picked up in the family dynamic, that you weren't supposed to be joyful when maybe other people weren't joyful. This is a bind that people get into. It's really interesting. It's like a thermostat that's been set too close. You know how thermostats work? You set it for 20, but it can't go off at 20 and then on at 20. So it has to go off at 21 and then on at 19. So that it doesn't keep clicking on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. So you need some space there. Some people feel guilty when they're happy because they suddenly, like, they might have been raised in a situation where their parents had difficulties and suffering, and there's suffering in the world, and when the child feels happy, they feel guilty because their parents had a really rough time, and then the opposite happens, and then they feel sad, but they feel guilty for being sad or not happy because their parents want them to be happy because they weren't happy. So when they feel happy, they feel guilty. And when they feel unhappy, they feel guilty. So the thermostat there is set right on 20 and it keeps clicking back and forth. This can drive you out of your mind. I think some of the, like the survivors, the families or children of survivors of the Holocaust and so forth, sometimes have that experience. Their parents went through, and their parents might have gone through this even when they were children, some horrific situation. And they tell them all about it. The child has not had that experience. But it's obviously horrific and terrible kind of situation. And then how are you supposed to feel happy when your parents went through that? And at the same time, what do the parents want for their children? They want them to be happy because they had a horrific experience. They want them to be happy. So when this can mess up the psychology. When the child is happy, they feel guilty. And then when they're not happy, they feel guilty. This can happen in all kinds of situations. So you want to reflect over whether in your family dynamic there was something there was some sort of message that you didn't deserve to be happy. When you're happy, remember there's a whole bunch of starving children in the world. This is the problem with guilt and understanding that you're connecting your happiness to everybody else's. That when bad things are happening in the world, you have to feel bad. So you're at the mercy of the world, situation in the world. You can see it right now. There's bad things happening in Israel and Gaza, and there's bad things happening in Russia and Ukraine and all of this kind of stuff. How should you feel about this? Maybe you're not even, you're at the other side of the world. How should you feel about it? Can you be happy when that's happening? Lots of people would say, how can you be happy when that's happening? The Buddha is saying your happiness is independent of those situations. You're not rejoicing in them, and you're not ignoring them, but how does it help that you start suffering as well? I mean, isn't suffering bad enough in the world that you should not join the suffering and increase the suffering? You should not join the suffering. You should maintain your emotional well-being in the midst of these fluctuations of situations in the world. So joy is a proper emotion to have, and you do not need to feel guilty about having joy. Yeah. Okay, let's have another question.
The next question is from the live stream from Bob in Texas, United States. How do monks in Asia eat meat given them during alms round? Don't the lay people know they should not kill to feed the monks?
The monks eat meat by chewing it with their teeth. That's how they eat it. Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, this has gone into in great detail during the life of the Buddha. They had to decide, the Buddha himself had to decide. See, he's against killing animals, and the monks are forbidden from killing animals. He doesn't think that lay people should be killing animals either, but lay people may not have, lay people or people who are not even Buddhist might offer food to a monk. And the monk, by the way, is by necessity an alms mendicant by the rules. You can't just decide what you're going to eat, buy it at the store and so forth. Monks can't buy their own food. They don't have money and so forth. They must be committed to receiving food. They're allowed to be vegetarian if they so wish, but they do not have to be, because there's another level of this, and it's allowing people to, offer food generously. And they may not have twigged to the ethics of killing. Sometimes it's mixed into the food, so the monk would not be able to eat at all if there's meat mixed in. So in the rules of conduct for monks, you may be vegetarian if you so wish, or not. And the rule is meat, fish, and fowl, that is birds, chicken and so forth, is perfectly pure in 3 respects: not seen, not heard, not suspected to be killed on purpose for you. So when people offer food, they have maybe got this from the supermarket. It's the chicken or the beef or whatever was not killed on purpose for you. If you think it is, if like the person said, I knew you were coming on alms round, so I killed a chicken this morning, and I baked the chicken just for you. In that case, you're actually to refuse it. You say, don't kill things just for my behalf. But people don't often do that specifically for the monk. There's just like side effect of what they generally eat, and they offer that. So this has gone into in great detail, and the ethics of it in the time of the Buddha, and it's in the Vinaya. There are schools of Buddhism in the Mahayana tradition that are very diligently vegetarian. Some of the Mahayana, the Chinese schools, are extremely focused on being vegetarian, and they consider eating meat in itself as a karmic problem or something. The Buddha, that is not in accord with the historical rules of conduct for monks. And seeing that the monks were mendicants and had to receive their food on alms round, the Buddha said, well, if you want to eat the meat, that's fine. And if you want to do the vegetarian thing, that's fine as well. I won't force you to eat meat. And but I don't force other monks to be vegetarian either, because they may not get enough to eat if they do that, being too picky about things. So to this day, even in the Theravada school, there are some monks who are very committed vegetarians, and good luck to them if they can manage to maintain that lifestyle. And others prefer to just allow the generosity. It's not that the person loves meat or anything like that. It's just that you're an alms mendicant and you basically have to accept what you get. So that's the details of that. And the last question, Pia.
Yes, Ajahn, our last question is from Upasaka Kantagiri in London, England. Dear Ajahn Sona, I try to practice the Eightfold Path as well as I can and understand that the first truth says there is suffering. Even though I class myself as a Buddhist in times of great sadness and difficulty, I find comfort in a belief of a greater being than us and can get peace from reading the Bible. I can feel a bit of a fake Buddhist practitioner when I turn to the Bible. Could you please give me your opinion?
Well, this is, if you're raised in the West, there's a smorgasbord of religious ideas and philosophical ideas, and quite often we have to wade through them, and we explore different schools, and we find some good ideas in various religious schools, and sometimes you get comfort in that idea. In general, the Bible is kind of a very strange smorgasbord of some very unpeaceful ideas in the Bible. My God, my God. Some terrible kind of terrible kind of actions by God. Whole kind of wiping out civilizations and so forth. So if you find that peaceful, good on you. But there's a whole religions, Christian religions that are all about God works in mysterious ways, and he does these things. It's always with love, But we, as Buddhists, we question that. Like that. That's one of the reasons why we don't advocate for a creator. We find if there is one, and there's a lot of suffering. So the problem of suffering is one of the great arguments against the idea of an omnipotent God. Is like, if he's omnipotent, then what is he? Why is all this suffering happening? So if you use that as a if it does something for you, okay, but you need to reflect perhaps on that you probably need to be weaned off of this kind of exterior being as the source of your comfort. And a lot of people have that. They want that and they need that. They feel like somebody's watching over them. They have a concern for their well-being. From a Buddhist point of view, we emphasize the problem of that seems that nobody's looking after us. It's really quite wild. And we're going to have to emotionally deal with the inevitable pitfalls of existence and the vulnerabilities that we have, the illness, the aging, the death, the terrible things that happen to yourselves and others, that we have to find emotional well-being in the midst of this without needing an external explanation for this. So this is the kind of the attitude. So we will wrap up for today, and we will be back next week with the Q&A, live stream Q&A. Yes.